Who are the richest people in Zimbabwe and how are they? You see, we don't talk about that. Who are the biggest gold movers in this country? Who are the biggest commodity traders in this country? We don't talk about that. Who are the people who keep money in their houses and not who don't bank? It's the Indians. We don't talk about that. So I thought that, we are forced to focus on non-issues. Not to say that there are no black cartels, no. But the black cartels are like 100 on the list. I want to deal with the number one. And as we go down, I don't want you to think that I left out anybody. I'm going order by order with the investigations that I have. He who really has captured the state. Good morning, Zimbabweans and all media here present, and thank you for attending. Corruption is a scourge that has strong chokehold on Zimbabwe. Its effects are deep and far-reaching. It reduces foreign, direct, and domestic investment. It increases inequality and poverty, distorts and exploits public investments, and reduces public revenues. Furthermore, it erodes the trust we have in the public sector to act in our best interest and to expose people who have to put up with poor quality services or infrastructure. Unfortunately, corruption may be experienced the world over. It's the level that makes or breaks an economy, and sadly it would appear that we are currently experiencing corruption of unprecedented levels to the extent of state capture where many individuals and institutions are involved. Whilst I have always been a crusader against corruption and have in the past exposed numerous instances, the latest case is by far the biggest. It all started when disgruntled employees from Breakridge Investment approached me citing racial discrimination and unfair labor practice. The encounter basically opened a can of worms into the intricate dealings of the conglomerate operating in Zimbabwe since the late 1980s. Talk about Breakridge meeting. Breakridge is a company which is owned by Mike Fowler and Zed Kudnoris. They control Pixton Mine in Chegotu. Who's Pixton Mine? It belonged to Andrew Cranswick, who was white, and then passed on the ownership to them. Were they in exchange of money? We don't know, but it was done offshore. And how much money was exchanged offshore? Pixton Mine is one of the biggest gold mine assets in this country. Two, they have got Eureka Mine that they bought from Bridget Harden. Again, it's big. The two combined become probably, they are likely to be the biggest producers in this country. They're owned by Zed and Mike Fowler. Was there an exchange of money? Authorities done to get to end the transaction. Dealing any investor who's looking into it. Is it the RZ? In which arm of government is responsible for saying this investor company has money, this investor has no money? We have cold storage commission, for example, which was bought by Nick Havercroft. Nick is a poor white man who had or it was externalized. The companies that they purport to have offshore, which this government is paying to use them, is it not equally creating those them again? The much needed foreign currency in this country is coming from production, the production sector. Zimplats pay taxes, Unki pay taxes, Mimosa pay taxes. The money which is generated in Zimbabwe in forex finds itself offshore. The names of the offshore companies. The alleged externalization is stated through companies such as AGA Africa and Sub-Saharan Group International. who are the owners. And this is the information that we now want agents to go to and see how much money has gone into these companies. Further, who owns these companies? Money received from allegedly channeled to these offshore accounts to fund the said deaths. In order to track these illicit money flows, it is therefore important to understand from an externalization point of view how much companies have received. And unfortunately, we don't think, and as a result, we are not able to say, but Vashani, kutambira foreign currency, allows you to pay people in foreign currency if you're income in foreign currency. It does, even if you're in Zimbabwe, it does not have to be an expatriate. But they are prepared to now play with it on the pro market, okay? And then give you RTG. You say, oh, it is the black people who are pushing the rates on the ground in terms of paro market. You are missing the point. They then go and burn that money. And then they pay workers RTGS and not foreign currency and so forth. If they are generating foreign currency, why do they go at concessionary rates? Where does this money go? How is it calculated? As the monetary authority, it is across the board commander-in-chief of PFF, Comrade Malema, always talks about white capital monopoly. And Zimbabweans, because you think you are liberated, you are also not tied. How foolish, how white capital monopoly. Liberation came in 1980. 40% of per day ISCO is involved. Bread, milli. I said 40% of what you buy in a day, ISCO is involved. Bread, milli, chicken. Is that drive along Harare Drive today and go and see things which are there? No black owns the company there. Not only have they moved away from the black areas which are impoverished, they've moved to the white areas which are affluent. And people, money does not follow people. So why don't we today take a ride on the Borodo Road? I'll put you in a car, you don't have to worry about fuel or pay. Let's say it's a 15-minute ride and back. And look at how long did it take FG to build that factory. It was within 6 months to a year. Are there no industries in the country which they could have taken over from government to do the same thing? We've moved away from the procurement being in the sector and not in government. Sebo Chemicals, where government is a shareholder. ZFC windmill, they don't get, yet it's their cheapest. FSG is given a year contract, paid 60% in foreign currency. 60% in foreign currency. So do they need it to sell refined foreign currency? No, they don't, because they are given that. The black companies that you're talking about, which are involved in command agriculture, they are given RTGS. 100%. And they are forced to the market and raise the foreign currency. Are you understanding? Because the 60% they are given is foreign currency advance. You need to go on the market, no. But if you're given 100% in RTGS market, yes. So what do they do now? They say, oh, look at the pushing the rate. But the black cannot be 60% in advance of foreign currency. FSG is given. And then we then blame the black people for not delivering. Yet their resources are inadequate. These companies operate in diverse sectors of the economy. However, it is the food chain monopoly that UNESCO Africa owns national foods programs, Profits, Bakers Inn, Triple C, Ocom, Ivins. Now they're into gold mining. So which black is this? When chicken slice, is that chicken slice? They are fighting in every day. Our own. Us here have our own. Where is our conscience? Such a monopoly. Where is our conscience? And then you come and tell us it is the destroying the economy. You'd rather have a black man rich in this country because he will invest in this country. But the government does not also believe in its people. Who has got the biggest claim in this country of minerals? It's the whites. They speculate. Billy Rottenberg is given total for nothing. He makes 400 million from it. Any could have been given that. But is that 4 million in this country? Sorry. Is it in this country? So what's the difference between Billy Rottenberg and you when you're given a concession? The people who are buying a concession are not buying the face. They are buying the mineral on the ground. It's the mineral that they want. It's not the face that they want. They are alleged to have received over 50% of the maize. Did they receive preferential treatment? The committee was there yesterday on agriculture, chaired by Honorable Wajigeni. A lot came out of it, and probably that does tell with what I'm saying now. The danger of having one monopoly of basic commodity is that the country may be held to ransom through pricing artificial shortages. There is no state which is right in its mind that allows the company to control that without government having a shareholder. There's an ISCO Limited and their capture of state institutions, and now they have senior public officials in their leash. Their evidence clearly proves their position in externalization and so forth. I have with me here a colleague, a friend of the director in ISCO, Adrian Moore. With us here is involved and so forth. All the transactions which were inflating foreign currency of 1,000, which is supposed to be paid to 180,000. Everybody agrees and so forth. We have the evidence with us here, which we will make you go through paper by paper, because we said we're tired of having press conferences and saying, oh, we are just big mouth. I'm a legislator. My credibility is sure that is true. Not issue. I apologize. I didn't see it. Which means it was correct. The former prosecutor general was captured by INSCO. How he was captured by INSCO. On to the land cases. That we have done with and for us to, for Adrian to appear before you with this, these are people who are tired. The racism in these institutions is out of line. My thing, are they saying that Second Republic is sympathetic? They're also excited about land being, the land reform being. The president came and said, never forget. And now we are saying to the president, we are now in the Second Republic, the racism that we are facing, we've never faced before. People are quiet, they're speaking. The racism is out of this world. And for me, somebody said, oh, but Mliswa, that's the usual thing. He's extorting, he wants to be paid, and so forth. I started fighting racism when I was 16 years old. I didn't know money in rugby and cricket, those who know me. So was I looking for money when I was 16? I didn't even know money. black man extorts, and you are the people that every person wants a facilitation fee and so forth. There are not enough people in this country that can afford my facilitation fee unless you're in the oil industry. So it is important for us to understand that those who have issues wanted person, an issue on corruption in me will make headlines. So why don't you just go with the proof? Why don't you set up recordings of me? Why don't you trap me with money and so forth? There are many ways. They say we call this and so forth. It's because I'm not involved in that. I don't do that. I fight for people. I fight for people. For those who want to see. It belonged to Rothmans International, PLC, not Billy Rottenberg, not Temba Mliswa. And then they transferred it to the state. And this is the stamp of the state. Here. Transferred it to the state. And when it is transferred to the state like the land reform, it is stamped here. So this is the title deed. And then, on that title deed, this is Rothmans International. There. This really hurts me. This makes me want to cry, which was done. And here, this is when on this black spot, if you read clearly, it was done from Rothmans International. The government. So he then does a fake title deed here. You think it's blacks who fake? Do fake. In case you did black stealing. And you always accuse us of getting a fake title deed. As you can see, it's written Marimba Properties of the certain land in and so forth. The honors when Rothmans PLC donated to the state. When it is donated, then the state gives an offer letter. The people of Joshua Nkomo are brilliant because their paperwork is quite in order, and I'm going to come to it just now. So what? They then write to the Ministry of Justice and Parliamentary Affairs, which is responsible for the register of companies, to verify that that name on the title deed, does it exist? The government says no. And no one is arrested. Imagine you being a black person. Here. So they write reference confirmation of the registration of companies, namely Marimba Registration of Industrial Properties. That title deed is in Marimba Industrial Properties Limited. Their response is, refer to your letter, be advised that the above mentioned companies are not registered with the company's office. This is a ministerial letter and justice. They go to court. They are law-abiding citizens of this country. They are not relying on anybody but on documentation. This is a High Court order which was issued. Was the Nile Collective Housing Farming Cooperative. It's the same title deed. And it is ordered, okay, that by the first respondent contained in the letter of 5 March 20 from the Secretary of Public Works and National Housing, cancelling or withdrawing the right of the second to develop an urban housing scheme for its members on 8, asking the Park Township of Subdivision A of Aspindale Park of Subdivision A and B of Lockingham B, and it is hereby declared to be null and void and of no effect. This is the High Court. So now government wanted to rescind the decision. They went to court and the court says, no, you can't. This is the High Court. They are law-abiding citizens. So what then happens? Matonodze, and let me say this, and I say this without fear or favor. And you know I'm somebody who already is ready to die. My will, my trust deed, I did it already. So I'm not worried about that. It's quite in order. My kids won't suffer. If we're having comrades in this country who went to the struggle and say that we're selling out and to the Western world, yet they're busy selling out to the whites here. Okay. You've got a Colonel McDonald there who's used as a front by Billy Rottenberg. He writes a letter. He then went there one day and fired shots. Here's McDonald's letter. He fired shots. And I don't know where the letter is. The letter of McDonald's there writing on Aspindale. Bear with me. We want to deal with this. This is the certificate. No, it's not that. It's not that. Here. Okay. Okay, here. And here. Okay, this is Colonel Matonodze, Marimba Resdo Properties Limited. He writes a letter, retired Colonel Matonodze. These are the colonels who were sellouts in the war, because they were also selling out. His habit of selling out is continuous, you know. So, what's the ownership of stand Aspindale and remain extent of thing? He writes stand, he writes here. And then after writing here on behalf of residents, he then puts in an advert in the